Hello, I'm Bishra. Today I'll show you my second assignment for the Programming 2 course. I'll explain how to solve linear equations using Java. First, I'll create a new project. This is our main logic class. I created this class to hold the math variables a, b, c, d, e, f, and calculate the results. Here, I created a class named linear equation 5. I used private double for variables a to f because these are decimal numbers and I want to keep them safe inside the class. The constructor, this is the constructor. It takes six numbers from the user. I used this dot a equal a to save the values into the class variables. These are getter methods. They allow other parts of the program to see the values of a, b, c, d, e, f. And here, this method checks if we can solve the equation. In math, we can't divide by zero, so I calculated this. If the result is not here, it returns zero. Then here, this method calculates the value of x. If the equation is solvable, it uses the formula. If not, it returns zero. Here, this is similar to the x calculation. It follows the formula for y. It first checks its solvable function method to avoid errors. The new class, triangle class. This class helps us with the geometric shapes. These lines, I added these lines as arrays to store the points of the triangle. The array P holds the input data and Y holds the X and Y coordinates. For the three corners, I use double ABC for side lengths and ABC for the angles. The constructor, when I create triangle objects, it immediately calls solve triangle methods. I added this because I want the program to calculate all math values automatically at the start. Here, I wrote this small helper method. It checks if two points are in the same location, if two corners are the same. And here we calculate the area to check if the 3 points make a triangle. If the area is 0, the points are on a straight line. This means we can't form a triangle. I wrote this small helper method. It checks if 2 points are in the same location. I made it private because only this class needs to use it. It's a helper method for internal logic. Here, first I need to find the three corners of the triangle. I call the intersect method 3 times. It uses my linear equation 7 class to find where the lines meet. Without these points, I can't calculate anything. Here, I add the println lines to see the x and y coordinates in the console. It helps me check if the program is working correctly during the test. Here, I added this check because I don't want the program to calculate a fake triangle. This makes my code stable. And here, I calculate the side lengths using my dist method. After that, I use these lengths to find angles. The dist method calculates the distance between 2 points. And here, I wrote this method to find where 2 lines meet. In my project, I have lines, but I need the corners of the triangle. I use the linear equation 7 class here. I send the line data to that class, and it gives me the x and y intersection points. If they don't intersect, I save it as a minimum value to avoid error. And here, I need to find the 3 corners of the triangle. I call the intersect method 3 times. It uses my linear equation 7 class to find where the lines meet. Without these points, I can't calculate anything. Then here I added println lines to see the x and y coordinates in the console. It helps me check if the program is working correctly during the test. And here I added this check because I don't want the program to calculate a fake triangle. If the points are the same or on a line, the method stops here. This makes my code stable. And here I calculate the side lengths ABC using my dist method. After that, I use these lengths to find the angles. The dist method calculates the distance between 2 points. And here, I wrote this method to find where two lines meet. In my project, I have lines, but I need the corners of the triangle. I used the linear equation 7 class here. I sent the line data to that class, and it gives me the x and y intersection points. If they don't intersect, I save it the minimum value to avoid errors. I used math_round function because the math results is a double, but pixels on a screen are integer. I use math.round function to find the nearest pixel. And here, I use the log of cosinus here and added a limit check to make the calculation safety. I added graph panel earlier by mistake, but I'll explain it after triangle to avoid any errors with the triangle class. Let's explain graph panel. I extended JPanel because I want to draw on the screen. This class is my drawing board. And I added this method to update the data. When the user changes a number, I call repaint method. This tells Java to clean the screen and draw everything again. I used override because because paint component is a method of the JPanel class. I want to redefine it to draw my own coordinate system and triangle. It also has the compiler check for errors. I used G.drawLine to draw the x and y axis. I added the 20 pixels of padding from the edge so it looks clean and professional. And here, this is I used this to flip the coordinates. This way my graph looks like a real math coordinate system. This for loop to draw the three lines that the user entered. Instead of writing G.drawLine 3 times, and here, after I draw the lines, I create a triangle object. I use the lines P to find the corners. I need this object to check if the triangle is valid. Here. Then here, if the triangle is valid, I take the x and y coordinates of the corners and save them into simple variables like x0 and y0. This makes my drawing code much cleaner. And here, finally, I draw the triangle using blue lines. I use the corner points I calculated earlier. I also use get heights, again, this, to keep the math correct on the screen. And here, I also print the coordinate value. This shows the coordinates of each corner. Then here, I calculated the middle point of each side to print the lengths. I used string.formats to show only one decimal number. At first, I used a fixed number like 300, but there was a problem. When the panel size changed, the triangle disappeared or didn't fit. So I couldn't see the corners of my triangle. So I deleted this and wrote that function. Open the final class, main frame. Okay. Line 2, line 3, x1, y1, x2, y2, and edit text. Then I added the button for drawing. For triangles. Mm. Okay. I have no errors. I fixed them. Here, I extended JFrame because I want to create a window. This is the main box that holds our graph and buttons. Here, I connected my graph panel 1 to the frame. Here, sorry, here. I connected my graph panel 1 to the frame. I used set bounds to set the size. When the user clicks the draw button, the program reads the text from the 12 different input boxes for 3 lines. I used integer.parseInt method because the user types text, but I need the numbers to do maths. I save all these numbers into my sec. Here, I solved this. Yes, we have no errors. Then initialize the panel as a new graph panel 1. Once I updated the code to use the correct class, the symbol was recognized and the error was resolved. Okay. I'll enter the numbers. Sorry. And here, thank you for watching.